What is going on, everyone? Leon checking in, and we're at it again with another video. In today's video, we'll be talking more about the Asus ROG Zephyrus M16 gaming notebook in this 1 week later review. In a previous video, we unboxed the M16, and you can find that video by clicking on the card in the corner of this video. As for this video, it's featured on the Asus ROG playlist, so you can find information related to this topic quickly and easily. And in upcoming videos, we'll be talking more about the M16 and all the amazing things it can do. As always, we only feature products or services I buy, use, or am interested in. Now you can find the Asus ROG Zephyrus M16 gaming notebook and other related items by clicking on the Amazon storefront link in the description below. All things said, let's go ahead and get into it. So let's start by talking about the hardware, and the M16 that I have here is in the colorway of off black. Taking a closer look at the lid, you can see that we have this drilled pattern which features a holographic element, which is nearly impossible to catch on camera, but you can see some of it right there along the left edge. Taking a look at the sides here, you can see that we have some aggressive fins and ports for airflow. This just looks really cool. And then we have plenty of ports here, which is going to be very important for a gamer who's looking to plug in peripherals like a keyboard or mouse, but also important for a content creator like myself who needs to transfer files. And then if we take a look at the underside, you're going to see that we have some important stuff going on here as well. Again, we have this slotted pattern for cooling, and then we have these silicone shark fin risers which create a gap between the underside of the laptop and the surface is placed on as well. All of this is important when running the M16 in performance or turbo mode. Now, although the M16 is packed with high-end hardware, it doesn't feel all that bad when it comes to weight. It's actually very manageable, and you can see that this device is fairly thin. Now, of course, it's not going to be as light as the Chromebooks we're used to reviewing on the channel. This is definitely noticeably heavier. And then one of the features I look for in a laptop that I really enjoy, that is essentially a must-have, is the ability to open it with one finger. Not going to be a problem here with the M16 because, again, we have that considerable weight, and then we have those shark fin silicone risers underneath which keep it in place. And then we have the keyboard, and although I prefer mechanical keyboards for travel and sound, this keyboard setup is very nice. Now, the only problem I've had is with the trackpad, which is wider than what I'm used to, which still has me performing right-click commands accidentally. Now, I believe this is more user error, as the trackpad is probably designed with gaming functionality in mind, and it works well otherwise. So again, everything about this laptop is about functionality, but it's also about the small details. For example, take a look at the speaker grill on the right side. Yes, there's also one on the left side. It looks really clean. It's got a nice slotted design. Or look at this power button here. It just has a gamer-esque appearance. It looks like it's certainly for something major. It's the button you push when you want something significant to happen. Continuing on with the small details, gamers know the importance of a good startup sound effect. For example, I like to think back to PlayStation 1 days. I remember that startup sound effect like it was yesterday. It lives with me after all these years. And I think the M16 doesn't disappoint here either. I feel the same way about this startup sound effect, which has a samurai sword sound to it. So make sure you listen closely. Now, as you can see, that's accompanied with the ROG Republic of Gamers logo and tag. It's not something that stands out or it's very showy, but I think it's very memorable. And I have face unlock set up on my M16, which actually works really fast. Hoping this doesn't make a liar out of me. There we go. And as you can see, signing in is pretty quick. It's almost comparable to a Chromebook. The display, a 16-inch Full HD 165Hz unit, is very large and thin on bezels and looks very nice. This is obviously great for gaming, but also good for multitasking or content creation, as you have a huge amount of real estate to see multiple things or focus on a huge project. So it's no surprise the display works great indoors. Now, although many users probably won't use this device outside often, displayed information is challenging or near impossible to see on a bright day. And then we have some basic keyboard functions we can perform to change the system settings. So if we press and hold function and then F4 or aura, that's going to change the effect of the keyboard. So we've got static, breathe in, strobe in, color cycle, and rainbow. Using a keyboard shortcut, we can also change the performance of the M16. So if we press and hold function and then the F5 or fan button, we can cycle between performance, turbo, and silent. Now when changing between the performance settings using the keyboard, we also get this notification on the display. And I also like to note that when you're running only on battery, you're going to get silence or performance. When you're plugged in, you're going to get all three options. So again, we're plugged in, we're going to get performance, turbo, and silent. And another good note here, silent generally doesn't use the fan. I haven't noticed the fan being used with this setting, but when you're using performance or turbo, the fan kicks in. And as you can imagine, in turbo, the fan is going to kick in a lot more, and it's also going to be fairly loud. So here we are playing Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, and we are in turbo mode. Hopefully you can hear that fan. And we're going to try to play here a little bit. And you can see the gameplay is going to be smooth. We can run faster. So this looks really good, but hopefully you can hear that fan. That's about as loud as it gets. So in my opinion, that fan, I wouldn't say it's horribly loud, but it is noticeable. However, if you are playing games or doing anything that requires listening, I imagine you would be using headphones for a more immersive experience. So talking more about gaming, everything looks really good. It's very responsive. Going to lock onto some targets here. I'm gonna start shooting. I gotta remember to aim here. But the gameplay is really good. Now, as for that fan and the overall temperature of the unit, the fan, again, it's going. I've got it in turbo mode, which is, you know, for best specs here. But the unit itself is not getting overly hot. I don't even think it's warm. I'm going to try to touch it here. It's actually fairly cool. So that fan and all the vents, they do a really good job at keeping this whole unit cool. And just to give you an idea, it's about 78 to 80 degrees in my apartment. This is a big guy here. But you really don't mind, you really don't mind the noise of the fan. And that's a lot to say because I have the game muted right now too, just so that you can hear me talking here. But it's not too bad. I'm going to unmute here. And that way you can get an idea of the speakers, what they sound like. So the speakers are going to be pretty good here too. They do get pretty loud. Again, if you're looking for a more immersive experience, especially when gaming, you're probably going to put in some headphones. So here we are in Asphalt 9. I wanted to play another game so you can get another example of game performance, but also do a better audio test. So I actually have the mic closer to the M16 speakers in this clip so that we get a better representation of audio performance. And I'm hoping I can catch up here. We've got some cool stuff coming up here. That was a nice shot. playing on this device is amazing. To the jump. I didn't know that was a shortcut, to be honest. I was pretty sure I was going to crash. And we're still running in turbo mode. And there we go, we got a winner. Now as you can see, gaming is going to be really good on this device, and the audio is also really good. Now I did notice if you have another game or instance of a game in the background and you play another game, you are going to get lag, so make sure that if there's another game in the background, you close it, or else it'll affect the actual game that you're playing. Now there is one thing I do want to mention also. I am using an Xbox Core controller and it works great for the most part, but I do notice occasionally it disconnects in the middle of a game, which as you can imagine is frustrating, especially if it's a racing game and you're winning and then all of a sudden you're losing because your controller cuts out. So that's an issue I noticed. I didn't know if it was actually with the M16 or the Xbox Core controller itself, but just something I noticed. And then we have battery and charging, which we'll cover more in detail in a future video, but just to cover it here briefly, when using the adapter plugged into the M16, the adapter does get warm. That's normal. It's not so hot that you can't touch it. If that were the case, I would be concerned, but normal warmth is to be expected. As for the M16, it feels cool to the touch after those gaming sessions, so no issues there. As for charge performance, how long a charge lasts, again, we'll cover this more in detail, but it's pretty long if you're just doing simple tasks such as writing or maybe watching some videos or internet browsing. But if you're doing something that's more load intensive, such as playing games that you've seen here, it's gonna dramatically affect the battery life. So it just depends on what you're doing, but again, we'll cover that more in a future video. So that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, please leave a like. If you're watching on YouTube and have any questions or comments, as always, drop those down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Now there are 3 ways you can support the channel. The first way is to click on the Amazon storefront link in the description below. There you'll find items that I have bought or would buy, and anything you buy from the storefront does support the content. The next way you can show your support is just by sharing this content with someone who might enjoy it or find it useful. And the last way you can show your support is just by clicking the subscribe button. Now liking and subscribing are important because those are ways to vote on whether you like the content. Liking and subscribing are also important for new viewers and listeners. If new viewers and listeners see likes and subscribers, they're going to think that the content is helpful, worth watching, and listening to. As always, thanks for watching and may the universe flow in your favor. And until next time, Leon checking out. Yeah.